of Space Snacks. I'm your host, Cyan Proctor, and today we have Chelsea Gohd. Hi!
Hey!
How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me on to chat.
I'm so happy to be able to chat with you again. We're going to get into a little bit of our history and how we know each other. But for those of you guys that are joining us, Chelsea Gohd is a writer for Spacecom. And so if you've been following that awesome program, you probably have read a lot of her articles. And if you're listening and you leave a comment for us, you'll be in the running for the gumbo. I had it upside down for the postcard, and that's the recipe postcard. And the one for today is gumbo. Gumbo.
Woo!
Great. Chelsea, I want to start off by just having you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you've been up to.
Sure. So like you said, I write for space.com. I'm a science communicator. I make videos, I write articles, and mostly they're about space science, planetary sciences, all that fun stuff. And I've also been covering quite a bit of human exploration, rocket launches, fun things like that, just as a fun bonus on top. I went to school for science and I kind of got out. I did a little bit of research, tried the teaching thing, and I had no idea science communication was a job. And then I kind of lucked into a SciComm job at the Natural History Museum. I'm in New York, and I totally fell in love with science communication, talking about science, raving about science, writing about science, and here I am today.
That's so awesome, because a lot of times people who go into science don't think of themselves becoming a science communicator.
Yeah, I didn't even know it was a thing. I had no idea. Yeah, I was like, wait, you mean you can like write and talk about science for a job?
I know, isn't that great? And has science always been a part of your life? I mean, I know you went to school and stuff for that, but can you remember early on, was space a part of your family and you're looking up at the stars?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been into science, but I don't know, as a kid, I was never just into space or just, I was into all of it. I loved dinosaurs. I loved wildlife. I watched every episode of The Crocodile Hunter. I loved stargazing, but I also loved, all of it. I wasn't really the type of kid that was just into one thing. And so I think that's kind of why I fell in love with science communication, because every day I get to learn something new. I get to explore another little corner of science that maybe I hadn't heard of before. And so I think I was just a curious kid, and that kind of led me here.
I feel the same way. Just always interested in everything. And that's one of the reasons why I loved becoming an earth scientist or geoscientist, because as an earth scientist, it's the weather, it's the oceans, it's the land, it's the animals, it's everything, and kind of being able to, as a writer, explore those options, which is what's interesting. And
Definitely.
so how long have you been with space.com now?
I've been with Space.com as a staff member about a year, but I've been writing for them. I was an intern back in the day, and as a freelancer for longer than that. We're a tiny little team, but everyone's really wonderful and really great.
Oh, that's really great. And so they internships. That's a great way to get experience.
It's a paid internship. It's a really supportive team. Anyone early on in their SciComm career who's really into space, apply for it. Come hang out. Help me write.
Oh, that's great. I know a couple of young and up and coming science communicators that I think that would be really interested in this. So when we're talking about exploration, where would you want to go? Are you a moon person, Mars, International Space Station, tromping on Earth? What's your passion?
I don't know. I change my mind on this every day because I want to go everywhere. I don't know. I feel like the moon is just, growing up with the Apollo program kind of being, the pinnacle of space and exploration. When I was a kid, it just seems like it would be the greatest adventure. And, the moon, it just seems like gray, dead space rock. But I feel like there's so much more incredible science still to be done on the moon, so much more exploration still to be done, that I think that'd be a good first stop on my long list of places I would want to go in the solar system.
You know, thinking about the moon and the return to the moon, first female steps on the moon. And so now I don't want to put you on the spot, but that person's alive right now.
Yes.
And any thoughts on who it might be?
I mean, I don't know. I don't have any secret insider knowledge. But in my dreams, it would be Christina Cook and Jessica Meir together because they're best friends in real life. They were in the same astronaut class. And just to have two women who are real life best friends who work super well together, super efficiently. I mean, that's just me being like a fangirl. Like,
oh, I love that.
There's nothing to it other than that. Yeah.
You know, I would think that they're probably in the running.
Oh, yeah. Oh, they definitely are.
Right, how well they work together. And I was really fortunate because I did get to meet Jessica Meir because she was in 2010 when I was a finalist for the astronaut program. She was too. And so we came down and the first round interviews, we were in the same cohort together. So I have a picture of me next to her. I don't know if she remembers me, but I'm like, hey, you know, there she was.
How cool would that if she ends up being part of that crew to be like, hey, first woman on the moon, look at us.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, there's a connection here. And so when you're thinking about being on the moon and food, because
yes,
I love food. I know you love food too.
Oh,
what would you want to eat on the moon and why?
I mean, I'd have to bring tang just because, you know, tradition, history. I'm a vegetarian, so no shrimp cocktail for me, unfortunately. But I don't know, maybe some kind of rehydrated spicy tofu dish. Definitely some fresh greens and, you know, fruits if I could bring them up and they would last long enough. Just because, you know, even just a few days on the moon, I feel like you'd start to get sick of the prepackaged stuff.
Oh, yeah. And so the whole idea of a nice salad or, you know, on the meat, but that whole idea of
crunchy.
How do you bring fresh with you, right? And luckily, it's not far away, like going to Mars. And so the whole idea of fresh food is a possibility until we get to the point where we figure out how to successfully grow food on the moon.
Yes, which is, I mean, it's a huge challenge that food scientists at NASA are trying to overcome because obviously you can pack things that are going to last for a couple weeks and that's not a problem. But for any kind of longer duration mission, I mean, you really run into some issues, both with trying to grow things and especially if we're talking about Mars, you know, not only does the food, even that's prepackaged, not last long, but it'll nutritionally degrade and it'll start to lose its value in terms of health and nutrition. And so there's quite a few food obstacles in the way right now. Love to just send some salads up, you know, Grubhub delivery to the moon, but that's probably not the best solution.
It really is. And it's interesting to think about because there's a lot of culture that goes into how we eat, what we eat. And so this whole idea of packaged, 3D printed, everything you need in a you know, a pill to survive versus being able to enjoy the meal and the flavors and all of those things that come with that. And so it'll be interesting to see how
I have friends who insist they're like, once we can figure out how to get all that nutrition into a pill and you won't need anything else, it'll be perfect. And I'm like, there is no chance, even if we make that happen, that people would stop eating food. Like, do you not care about taste, flavor? Did you not grow up eating delicious food? You know what I mean? Who would live like that? Like, who would do that? Nobody.
It reminds me of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, the movie, the original, where she eats I think it was, I can't remember, it was gum or something, and it's a full course meal. Mm-hmm. And she ends up turning into the blueberry.
Yeah. And people are like, oh, it's the perfect solution. And I'm like, I don't know if it's the perfect solution. Yeah.
Right. I feel the same way. But it's going to be interesting because again, it's pushing the envelope of what we can and cannot do, and what we get used to also, as far as food and what we're willing to eat. When we go back to the moon and you're having this meal, who would you want to have it with and why? Who inspires you?
1,001 people. Definitely Katherine Johnson. We share a birthday. Not that I brag about that often. Um, but Katherine Johnson, I mean, just because she's one of the most legendary pioneers in space exploration, and I feel like she just also seems like she would be a good hang. She'd be good to hang out with, really great conversation. I'd love to have Sally Ride in the mix. I've gotten to have a few conversations with Sally's surviving partner, Tam, and the way that she talks about Sally, I'm like, God, she just seems like the coolest person in the world to hang out with. And I'm sure she has so many, like, just crazy stories from, early space flight and all the things that she went through. And of course, I mean, I'm a musician. I'd love to have some musicians in there as well. My favorite artist at the moment is LP, and I'd love to have her there too. She's just cool. She's just very cool.
It's funny because I always ask that question of, who would you want to have and one, but it's really hard to choose just one.
It's hard. I need like a list of 30 people. I can't choose. I mean, there's so many incredible people in space flight and the space sciences that I would love to hang out with.
Well, I love the fact that you mentioned, two pioneers between Katherine Johnson and Sally Ride. This whole idea of barriers and breaking down barriers as a female. And I kind of want to ask you, as a writer in space, how has that been? Have you felt like, I know things are opening up, there's a lot more access and stuff like that, but you're still a female science writer in space. What's that been like?
It's definitely interesting because in science communication in general, I mean, science is still very socially dominated by men. I mean, there's tons of women doing incredible science, but in terms of kind of social movement and support, it's very, male dominated, and there are tons of issues, for women and also people who aren't white and have that privilege. And so in science communication in general, there are definitely obstacles, but specifically in space, it's interesting. It's still very much a boys' club. It's definitely, I'm sure, progressed a billion times, where it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago. But I get a lot of Twitter DMs from people, a lot of emails that are like, you don't know what you're talking about. You can't possibly know, they're mostly just lunatics. So I
can't even imagine the amount of crazy mail and responses you get, just because of being a female science writer in that, and especially in a medium where people feel empowered to be able to call you out and say,
like platforms like Twitter, people have no filter.
And that is a whole new thing that obviously everybody has to deal with, but particularly women, and minorities, people of color, being called out as not being an expert, as we can go down that rabbit hole of kind of getting grades quickly.
Yeah.
And so have you had to toughen your skin a little bit as you've kind of gone into science communication?
I think a little bit, because early on I'd get someone tweeted at you saying, oh, you got this wrong in the article, and I'd have a breakdown. And then I'd go back into the article and it wasn't wrong. But I'd still be like, oh man, it looks like I did it wrong, but I did it, And so I think definitely I've gotten a tougher skin, especially because on Twitter and just in general, I've found a community of women in science communication. And it's funny, someone will say something nasty to me or nasty to one of my friends, and everyone comes out of the woodwork and shuts them down and is like, absolutely not happening. And so and so that's been really great. And I think that even just over the last couple of years, I've seen that kind of community build and people connecting more and getting more kind of open with meeting other women in science.
I love that because I've seen the same thing, and having that support network, and in raising each other, because I just remember career-wise growing up and being a woman of color, it was always like we were competing against each other for that one spot. Because there's one spot for a female, or there's one spot for a woman of color, and so you almost had to
Can't
feel
have
like
two.
but it set up this culture of competition versus support. And I love now that the language is changing to women empowering women, women supporting women, people of color in STEM, just trying to find community, trying to raise each other, and realize that there's enough for all of us to be brought to the table.
Oh, 100%. Because the old system, it really encouraged that competition, because then instead of people being like, oh, well, the system is making it so there's only one of me, they made it seem like, oh no, you just have to beat out the other women and be better than them, instead of realizing that this whole group of women are all exceptionally talented and educated and totally qualified, and they shouldn't be competing with each other. They should be taking over.
Right. Exactly. I feel the same way. So going back to home life now, and do you like to cook? Are you a baker? Are you a takeout person? What's going on there?
I'm a lazy experimental cook. So
That's exactly what I am. Oh my goodness, yes.
so I'm a vegetarian, so I should be, cooking fresh vegetables and making colorful, perfect meals all the time, or at least that's what social media has me believe. But I have my basics. I'll throw a sweet potato or two in the oven, and that's a meal when I don't feel like doing anything. But then I'll have days where I just really want to try something new. Like in quarantine, I've been experimenting with making the perfect angel food cake. And they've both been flat and terrible, but really tasty, just ugly. They're just ugly, but they're very good. And so that's kind of where I fall on the spectrum.
Oh my goodness, I love that. I have a recipe contest right now, Meals for Earth. I am going to hound you to submit your your ugly pound cake. Or is it angel cake? I can't remember, but yes,
angel food.
Angel food cake. Your ugly angel food cake.
They're supposed to be like tall and fluffy, and mine are like dense sugar loaves, which they're really good, but
nothing wrong with that.
Supposed to be. Yeah.
And do you have a favorite type of food that you like to eat?
I mean, anything that has like crispy tofu in it is like my favorite thing on the planet. Like, it doesn't matter what kind of sauce is on there, what greens or starch is with it. Anything with crispy tofu is like the best meal.
I'm gonna ask you, because most of the time, I'm a big texture eater, and so tofu is a tough one for me, because
tofu can go wrong real quick.
Right. So how do you get crispy tofu? What's the secret?
The main thing is, so like if you're just buying like a little container of it at the store, is like draining it and drying it out. Because if you just cut it up and take it right out of the package, it's like, because it sits in a liquid, and so you have to like basically press it between two plates, let it dry, let the liquid get out of it, and then even if you're just sauteing it, it'll be way crispier. But if you want to get it super crispy, you can like bake it, you can like coat it in some kind of like lemon juice crumb mixture. But yeah, just draining it's like the main way to get it crispy. And
I think you may have to submit a couple recipes, because we have different categories. I think we need a good tofu recipe out of you. I recently, so I went to India, and I had Indian food, and I didn't realize what I was missing. But cheese, I discovered fried cheese in India.
After my heart. Love fried cheese. Love all cheese.
So now me and my husband were shopping recently, and we found a package of, grilling cheese. And we were like, yeah, that was our expression. We were like, grilling cheese? Okay, because I remember in India, they were grilling cheese. And I was figure out, and I'm like, ooh, we got to try this.
Yeah. That was like, I had to go to Montreal for this thing the other year, and I'd never been before. It's a lot of like cool French Canadian food. And I went into this shop and I got a sandwich, and it was like a brie sandwich. but it was like this thick, this slab of brie that had been like roasted and toasted and seared with like pear and balsamic vinaigrette. Oh my God. And the meltiness, it was crazy. It was
Okay,
crazy.
I gotta say that in India, I went to McDonald's. Yes,
Yeah.
people, I went to McDonald's, but it was, you got a hunk of cheese that was breaded and grilled. It was like a McPaneer or something like that. I can't remember the name, but it was amazingly delicious. Like, why is this not here, especially
Really.
as a vegetarian option here in the
Yeah.
United States, if you can
There's
offer
nothing at
that?
McDonald's I can eat. The United States McDonald's fries aren't even vegetarian. Like, bring the McPaneer over.
Right.
I will pay you money for it. Like,
It was like the meat, it was so delicious. I had to go back and get another one. And so what about spicy? Are you do you like
yeah, I
spicy?
mean, I can't handle super spicy, but I grew up like my dad's favorite thing is like barbecue and hot sauce. And so I really love hot sauce, but I like specific types of flavorful hot sauce.
Mhm.
And I don't go for like the Tabasco or like the just hot for the sake of being hot. Like
Yep.
I like flavorful, like mild to medium spicy. I'm a baby. I don't know.
Have you tried making your own kind of coming up with any combinations using peppers and or even like a salsa or anything like on your own?
I've never dipped my toe into those waters, but I really need to. I've literally never even considered it. And now I'm like, yeah, I gotta do that. I'm thinking I've got like apple cider vinegar, I've got some other stuff. Yeah, I'm gonna try to make something happen. That's a good idea.
Well, I just started dipping my toe in because we have an urban garden in our backyard, and we started growing jalapenos first. Those were easy, but now we're starting to get into like sweet banana
Oh
peppers.
my God, I love banana peppers.
I
Oh my
had
gosh.
no idea. Like
They're
now,
so good. They're
they're
so
so
good.
good. And so now I'm cutting them up and sauteing them in all kinds of stuff.
Mhm.
Last night I made a zucchini. I took a zucchini. We got these beautiful zucchinis from our garden and I spiraled it
Amazing.
to make and
Mhm.
tried to dry it out as best I could to make a pasta. And I chopped up sweet banana pepper.
Ugh, I love those the pickled banana peppers like on a cheese deli sandwich. Oh my God. It's like pepper jack cheese, like the vinegary banana peppers. It's so good.
You know, it's funny you bring that up because that's one of the things that we're going to try and do is figuring out preserving how to best
Nice.
preserve some of the things that we're getting out of the garden. And so we're talking about pickling. And so
Yeah.
I didn't even think about pickling those, but now
Oh, definitely pickle the banana peppers. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I want to take a moment to talk to you about science and art. And, you know, I love the fact that we're moving from this acronym of STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, into STEAM, you know, bringing
Mhm.
in the arts. I know that you're an artist, not only in your writing, but as a musician. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So I write, record, perform music under the stage name Foxanne. Who doesn't love a good stage name? And I make kind of like indie pop, indie rock music. I play electric guitar, sing, the whole kit and caboodle. And I actually am just like finishing up my first big like full length like big deal record right now, and I'm really excited about it. But yeah, I like to like I don't ever want to like force science into my music. Like I don't want to be like I'm gonna write a song about boop boop boop, because it comes across kind of kitschy, kind of like silly. But in writing this album, actually two songs kind of naturally came about as spacey. One of them is a song in which I used rocket launch audio that I took at the OA9 launch from Wallops, Virginia, a few years ago. And then another one of the songs is about the Mars Opportunity rover. And of course, it's very sad, and we miss Oppie. Of course, very melancholy and dramatic. But yeah, it's my life is kind of like half science, half music.
But I love the fact that you're finding the blend between them and when things in the science community that happen that really resonate with you, and how you bring that back in and express that through not only, like I said, you're writing it as a job, but also in your music. Did you didn't know at the time when you were recording this music that you were going to incorporate it, or did you kind of have an idea like, oh, what this sound might be really unique, maybe this will be something I can bring in?
Actually, I was driving back to New York from a Virginia launch, and on the drive, I was like hearing the rocket launch sounds in my head, and I was like, man, I gotta put that in a song. And so while I was driving, I was like writing the song over it in my head. And so by the time I'd landed, I like got out my little recorder and I was like, okay, gotta remember this. I gotta remember this.
I love that. And so just hearing that sound and then being able to, I'm musically no creativity when it comes to dance, music,
Everyone has
singing,
their
any of that
strong things.
stuff.
Everyone has their thing. Everyone, like you're an expert space chef. I am a beginner chef.
But I loved hearing your creative process and the sounds that you've been able to, pick up and then incorporate that into your music.
Definitely. Actually, on the Mars Opportunity one, I so there's like a lot of like synthesizer that I've put on the record, and for that one, I went through like all these synthesizer sounds and ended up like finding and making a sound that replicated the sound of Mars quakes that have been recorded, because I was like, oh, how cool would it be? And it's so subtle, and no one else would know or care. But like to me, I'm like, oh man, I'm on Mars and I'm hearing the Mars quakes. You know?
Oh, that is so great. I love that. Oh, and so obviously in the situation that we're in right now with self-isolation and COVID, how has that impacted you as a writer and a musician?
Definitely. I mean, as a musician, all my shows have been canceled. I am kind of reworking my whole strategy with how to release my record. And being in isolation, like the creative process for writing and music totally has changed because like I'm not even in my regular living situation. I've had to go somewhere else, and you're just in a strange situation, strange circumstances. And so I think it's for me, and I think probably for a lot of people, it's harder to be creative. I know a lot of people are like, oh man, write the best novel of all time in quarantine, learn a new instrument, learn a new language. And it's like, don't put so much pressure on yourself, You're gonna have days where you just want to watch Planet Earth and eat snacks. That's okay. If you don't have a job that you have to do, and just, I think, for me, it's been kind of letting go of feeling the need to be so proactive about everything and kind of letting the creativity come and go.
I love
you don't
that.
stress on yourself in quarantine. Everything's hard right now. Like, come on.
It really is. And I don't think we recognize enough that you are exhausted because of the stress that's been imposed.
Even
and
doing
not,
nothing, I'm tired. Like, like on a Saturday, like I'll be sitting there outside doing nothing, and I'm like,
I feel the same way. A couple of quick things. You mentioned snacks. Are you a snacker?
I'm a snacker. I don't do a lot of big meals. I do a lot of snacks. I do a lot of like blueberry protein smoothies and small snacks and fruit, and I don't know. It's
And
I
then
love the snack.
what is your go-to drink that you must have?
I think if I had to choose my favorite drink, I don't really drink alcohol, but I really love iced green tea. As like boring as that might be, I just love it. It's the most delicious thing on the planet to me.
Now, do you make your own iced green tea, or do you?
Sometimes.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if I'm feeling industrious. If I'm feeling lazy, I don't. But it depends. It depends. Yeah.
Now, at the end here, I want to mention how we met. Well, we met on Twitter, actually. I think that was our first. And then Sensoria, I've got the mug here to represent.
Sensoria.
But I reached out to you to tell us about that we were having this all-female mission, and you came to High Seas, which is right above my head here. my photo of the high seas habitat at night, and we're able to interview us. And so thinking about you and your job and this travel to people and events, and you just can't do that in COVID.
You can't. I mean, there's a huge historic SpaceX launch at the end of the month that people have been waiting a decade for. I can't go. And so it's kind of a bummer. But I mean, even just in the last 6 months, I've been so lucky to go to launches and go to Mars to meet you literally. That I can't be too upset about it. I just have to remind myself how lucky I've been with all the travel I have been doing, that I can sit tight for a bit. It's fine.
Yeah, I'm used to traveling a lot also, and it's been a nice break
Yeah,
from my normal routine and kind of finding myself a little bit in that process. So we have Tim
definitely.
who's saying grilled cheese. He needs to learn more about that. He thinks he had it in Costa Rica. Tim, thanks for watching. Again, if you leave a comment, we only have a minute left. You can get this gumbo recipe. Tim, looks like you're in the running for that right now. And Chelsea, this has been amazing. I love talking to you, of course. How can people follow you, if they're interested in your music or anything like that?
Definitely. All my articles and videos are on space.com. I'm on Twitter, Chelsea Gohd, and all of my music is under the name Foxanne. I'm on, Spotify, SoundCloud. I'm on Tidal. I've never used Tidal, but I'm on Tidal. So yeah, I'm on all the social stuff and all over space.com doing spacey things.
Oh, thank you. Again, I appreciate all that you're doing in the science communication world. Thank you for coming on the show.
Well, I appreciate you, Saya.
Oh, I can't wait till we get to hang out again.
Yes, we're gonna hang out. We're gonna have such good snacks the next time we hang out. Oh my God.
Absolutely. Oh, we can grill cheese together.
We should do like a cooking hangout. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yes, it's planned. It's happening. It's happening.
Definitely. All right. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. See you tomorrow with another Space Snacks at 9 a.m. Pacific time. Bye.
Bye.